Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Hyrule Chronicles D&D. I am the GM ArticulateT, and with me today I have Renji, Heir of Nihilus, being played by TheNetherlad.
Good evening.
I have Hikan Sio, being played by Alvarance.
And like a good chicken stock, the plot thickens.
Fucking,
We're gonna have to
I've
keep
been
him
workshopping
away from
that.
you.
I've been working on that, workshopping that for the
Like a
past
good
4
breath.
hours.
Okay. Playing Ziden Shari, I have Rover Pirate.
I'm here.
And finally playing Max, I have Keastreth.
I don't have any jokes either.
It's okay. You need some serious people, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah. So,
I don't want to be serious.
what
Then
happened?
we can make a joke.
What happened last time, folks?
So, last time on Hyrule Chronicles, episode 32, Fractured Mirror, we had a party. We had a ball, actually.
Sorry.
Some rupees, apparently. So we, as previous employees of Minister Simeon, we were invited to his wake, the ball held in honor of his life, and so we had picked up some finery, and we went to the ball, and well, had a bit of a hobnob with some of the nobility there. Afterwards, Hikan went to follow Lady Risha as she went home after having had a letter delivered to her, which he, being the, very good boy that he is, stole from her mansion. And as he returned to the castle, a signal, a distress signal, went up at the castle as, just a moment before, the rest of the party noticed a shriek and a loud noise coming from the castle, and specifically the study of the king, respectively. Ziden and Max went to try and figure out what the scream was for, as they figured out that Princess Sophicia was being kidnapped by a Max lookalike, which, with Princess Sophicia, disappeared in a teleportation spell. And Renji hurried to the king's study, where a lithe, fiery red-headed person stood above him, with Zelish and Nihilus looking on as they were paralyzed. Renji tried to fight her off, but she too vanished after placing a curse on the king, turning him much older than he already was and stopping his heart. Just before giving Renji a nick on his cheek and showing that she too was a warlock of the Harvester. I think that's it.
Yeah, that pretty much sums everything up. So, we return to the scene in the king's study. The last flex of energy of the teleportation spell, presumably, that took away the assailant, are fading away, and just as they finally fade out of view, both Zelish and Nihilus suddenly begin to move again. They catch themselves briefly before they take in the situation.
Before they say anything, I start, like, I run to the door and kind of stop there, and I shout into the hallway, "Guards! Medic! Quickly!"
You hear a responding shout from down the hall. It's like, "Alright, man, this is right." It's like just a sudden a sudden cacophony of noise of shouting and clattering of metal boots coming from either direction in the hallway, as they respond to your call. Behind you, Zelish pauses for a moment before rushing to the side of the king, like throwing his staff to one side and kneeling to the floor to get to his charge. And Nihilus slowly turns to regard you.
Also, as this other warlock disappeared, the flecks of energy that I saw, are they like very close to the resonance or magical energy that I equip?
No. The energy that, like the flash of light that happened when they teleported away, was very much a generic sort of bright flash of bluish white, with like little motes, as if like little wisps of energy that kind of rise into the air like embers and disappear, as opposed to it being the pixelated twilight energy that you are so accustomed to.
Yes. With Nihilus regarding me, I avert my gaze a little, and in Sheikah, I say, "Father, you know me. I am not against."
How did you do that? Renji.
I found out that some things in the castle aren't as well hidden as they should be. And I try and grab the book from my bag of holding of Twilight lore and realize that I don't have my bag of holding with me. That was magic
I am aware.
given to me by a being I only know as the Harvester.
Any kind of
So far I've done my work for Minister Simeon and previously for, a farmer with the help of these magics, and I've dispatched some creatures that once I slay them with this and I materialize the Twilight Rapier, they are absorbed into what I believe to be the Twilight Realm.
There's a expression on Nihilus's face that kind of suggests that he's really having trouble reconciling that this is the reality that he's currently in. Like he doesn't interrupt you as you speak. He watches you summon your sword. You see that he just kind of like towards the end of your explanation, he begins very like almost instinctually just shaking his head.
And I dismiss the sword again. I don't want the guards to see any of this. That is also why I'm speaking in Sheikah.
Yeah. How long?
Few days after my 17th birthday.
I just don't understand why. What? You're an intelligent boy, Renji. Why did you think that this would be such a good idea?
At the moment, at that moment, I wanted anything but the life I saw before me. I know I live in comfort. I know I have everything that I could want or need.
Then what life did you think was before you?
Servitude.
What?
I see how
Enough, Renji. Silence. There are other matters to take care of now.
Yes.
And his eyes kind of wander into the room, and you follow his gaze, and you see that Zelish is still on the ground, and he hasn't said anything. But he seems to be cradling the body of the king like he's a child. And there's something in Zelish's body language that suggests that he's just gone. And behind you, you hear like the sudden rush of clattering of metal boots as a platoon of royal guard arrive, armed and ready. And one of them arrives with like a medical kit. And one of them turns to Nihilus, says, "Sir," and it's like, "Go." And they shove both of you aside to get into the room.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of form a defensive perimeter as one of them kneels down to try and administer stuff, like something to the king. But you can hear that there's kind of like a pushing. It's like, "Sir, I need to." It's like, leave. As Zelish is like resisting them to get to the king. And after a pause, Nihilus slowly turns back to you, and you can see that there is a very kind of disappointed scowl on his face. This is the kind of look that says, "We will talk about this later." As he looks to you, and he simply says, "I need to go and see if SteveTheSeregios is okay."
Right.
I want you to go back to the banquet hall and wait with the other guests. Am I clear?
Yes, Father. And I
As you
turn
to leave, I want you to make a wisdom saving throw for me, please.
Oh boy. Luckily, I am good at these, but still. That's a what?
Interesting. What do you think?
You get a bonus from something.
Okay.
That's
That's probably that.
9
I
plus
have
3 plus
a
2 plus 1.
Just a 15.
Okay, just a 15. So
Yep.
as you nod and turn to leave, like your foot leaves the ground, and just as it hits the floor again, you suddenly stop. And no matter how hard you move, you can't seem to move any further. You try and open your mouth to speak, but you can't speak. All you can do is move your eyes. And like Nihilus kind of watches this happen, and he looks back into the room, and he says, Grandmaster, please. And you hear from behind say, he spoke the traitor tongue. Guards, get him. And there is a pause among them as they kind of like look between them, and then you hear like the scraping of metal as swords are being drawn. And like, because it's still happening behind you, you can't see back into the room now that you're paralyzed. Nihilus speaks up again. It's like, will you release my son? He is not in league with whatever that is. It's like, then why did he betray every value that our people have had? Your son, he's made a deal with them, and it cost me my charge. And Nihilus responds, it's like, he's just a boy. He didn't know any better, I'm sure, and I will speak to him later. Just let my son go. And there's more silence before eventually you feel your muscles relax and you complete your stride out the door. And as you kind of recollect yourself after the experience of being paralyzed, Zelish speaks up in a quieter tone. It's like, 3 of you escort him to the banquet hall where he can be questioned like the others. Go. And there's a brief nod, and 3 royal guards accompany you back to the banquet hall. 2 of them flanking you, 1 of them following you closely behind.
Are any of these guards familiar to me?
It's hard to tell. The helmets that they wear kind of cover most of their faces.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And as you kind of move on, you hear the pat 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 of leather shoes running on stone, presumably as Nihilus runs off to see if his charge is okay. And with that, we cut back to Max and Ziden.
Okay.
So you have just witnessed Max's duplicate disappear in a bright flash of bluish-white light, with an unconscious princess underneath one of his arms. He has clearly been struck. He has, as far as you're aware, he has some kind of control over ice. In the room, as you look around, you see the 2 frozen statues of the bears that you summoned when you were attempting to intercede him, and by the door, like plastered against the wall, also encased in ice, are a pair of guards. The rest of the room is completely coated in ice and snow. It is absolutely freezing in here, and your clothes don't do much to ward off the cold.
Well, first thing Ziden will do is, I guess, immediately cast Locate Object, focusing on Princess Sophitia's dress.
Okay. You concentrate. You can't sense it anywhere.
Oh, that's far away. Then the second thing he will do is use Dispel Magic on the ice on the guards.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Just need to remind myself. Okay. I'm not sure whether or not it is. I mean, I'll allow it, but I'm not sure what good it will do. So, roll me a. Do me a ability check. I did check recently. Apparently it isn't the you don't add your proficiency bonus to this one because apparently that's a specific bonus that abjuration wizards get.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's basically just straight
wisdom.
8.
You focus your magics and try and get it to dispel the magical ice that is currently encasing these guards, who are more or less stuck in a tableau-esque statue of fear. Or one of the, like, it's a mix of like getting ready to charge and also kind of realizing what's coming and being afraid. Sadly, the enchantments on this specific ice are too strong.
Too strong.
Max is just kneeling where he landed after punching the other him in the face, and it's kind of hard to tell whether he's shaking from anger, cold, or something else, or all of the above.
Well, seeing that his magics haven't really worked that much, and it's exceedingly cold here, Ziden's going to move over to move Max at least out of the stupidly icy cold area.
And Max, do you allow it?
It takes a bit to like get him to move, but eventually he does.
Okay. So Ziden, you guide Max out of the room, back, presumably back through the door that you entered, and you kind of move back out into the hall where there's still kind of like, it's still encased in ice by quite a distance, but at least it's a bit warmer out here. And there's like a wall, like a couple of wall sconces that are still burning bright with flame that you can kind of position yourself near to at least warm up a bit. The two guards that followed you in this instance have kind of stopped mid-run, and one of them peers into the room while the other one looks to you and looks to you guys and says, "I know it's a bit of a shot in the dark here, but you don't know what this is, do you?"
Ziden shakes his head.
As he kind of like looks back into the room that his companion's looking into, and just as they're looking in, you hear a that kind of resonates through the castle. It's and the guard says, "Oh no, all right, okay, Pierce." And the other guy goes, "Yeah," and the first one looks over and says, "Well, you've got to stand guard at this room, at least until one of the Sheikah turns up."
One of the Sheikah?
Yeah, the royal family have bodyguards, you see, and they're all Sheikah. They're responsible specifically for... Yeah, yeah.
Ziden points at his ears.
And he says, right, okay. And he kind of like very cautiously moves over to stand by the door. And he does so cautiously because the floor is ice and he doesn't want to slip. And just as he does so, you two hear as you turn to see Renji's father, Nihilus, turn a corner and effectively be sprinting, more or less ninja running almost. Not Naruto ninja running though, like very low to the ground, sort of arms close to the body. But as he kind of sees the room and the corridor encased in ice, he skids to a halt, and his eyes lock on you two and says, "What happened here?"
There was some other magical individual who kidnapped the princess. They teleported away somewhere not within 1,000 feet of here. I don't quite know how far.
Like you see there's a kind of his face kind of twists in various different ways, like between emotions like dread and anger and confusion, as he kind of looks at this room and the two guards, and he briskly walks through to the room itself to kind of have a look in, and he sees the statues of the bears and the entire room almost completely encased in ice. And his tense professional stance drops, his shoulders slump, and he lowers his head, and he turns back into the two of you, and in a very resigned fashion just says, "Kidnapped."
She was alive. She was taken.
I suppose that is some kind of miracle. Did you see what this captor looked like?
Max, who has been completely silent and hasn't even looked up when Nihilus ran past, just been holding on to something by his chest in a white knuckle grip, just glances up and says, "He looked like me." And then just looks Nihilus dead in the eyes.
I'd say his passive insight is high enough to kind of gather what you mean, and he kind of very slowly nods and says, "Okay." And he looks back to the room and says, "I do not mean to ask much of you, but there's been another incident in the castle. The king has passed, and most of the guards are going to be focused there. Would you two be able to help me have a look around this room to see if there's any other clues that we could possibly pick up?"
Of course.
Thank you. He turns and enters the room. And kind of like begin searching, regardless of whether or not you guys enter in after him. But if you do enter in after
I'll
him,
enter.
excellent. If you do
Max will enter after like a couple of seconds.
when you do enter, feel free to make an investigation roll for me, please, as you help search the room.
15.
20.
So, Ziden, since you probably got the most calm head at the moment, you are able to really kind of go into the minutiae of everything. Sadly, a lot of the things in this room are kind of locked away behind a covering of ice, but there are a few things that you have a look through. You can you force open drawers as the ice breaks away. One of the things that catches your eye is lying on the floor nearby appears to be a small lockbox. It's about the size of like a what's the word? I'm trying to think of an appropriate thing. It's like a little jewelry box. It fits in the palm of your hand. As you kind of pick it up, you note that as you pick it up and wipe away some of the ice, you notice that it is a obsidian black box with a gold trim. It doesn't in any way, shape, or form fit what you would expect would be the stylings of this room. In fact, the way that the box is designed, it almost looks fairly sinister. Like the corners of it seem slightly pointed.
Evil box.
Evil box.
I know also earlier you were saying that Nihilus wasn't ninja running, but now that you've said it, I just can't not imagine it.
Yeah, he's not. So if you imagine like Sheik's running cycle in Smash as opposed to Naruto running, that's the thing I was going for. But I can't, like, that gate is open now and it's the internet, so it's not going to go away.
Fine.
So Ziden will use a tissue to pick it up, potentially put it on a table and call Nihilus over.
He looks over and wanders. And
I would guess this is not the princess's style.
No, I have never seen that before.
I'm going to try and open it.
Oh, it's already open.
Max, stand back a bit. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it empty?
It's, yeah, it is empty.
Would it be possible she was sent a gift, and this gift also allowed them to effectively teleport in?
There were a lot of gifts that came in. Wait. And he picks it up with his bare hands and looks at it. This looks familiar. Oh no. And he puts it down and says, I think the king also got one of these. That might... Right. And he makes a start to leave and says, okay, the rest of the guests are being asked to meet in the banquet hall for further questioning. Is it possible that you can head there? And he looks to Max specifically and says, I understand this is a very tense situation, but if the guards or the chaplains ask anything specifically about what happened here and it's not something that you can handle, say that you have my blessing, that I have already asked you, and they don't need to ask again, okay?
Alright.
Okay. I will more than likely be speaking to you all soon. And with that, he runs off.
Alright, Max, let's head back.
Max just follows behind, still with the white knuckle grip over his chest.
Meanwhile, outside, so Hikan, you just stopped on the path and you have heard the horn go off, and you turn and see that the guard who is escorting you up the path, his face loses all color, and he turns very slowly to you and says, what did you say that you were here for again? Were you at the...
I was there, and like I said before, I know Renji, and his dad asked me to go get something from the Temple of Etheria real quick since I was here, and yeah, I was supposed to meet back up with them.
Right. Okay. Follow me then. And he leads you up the path, though he makes sure to keep very close to you. Like it's changed from him being like, well, I guess I got to do this sort of obligation sort of thing, obligations of the job, to very suddenly being like, hey, I'm going to keep a very close eye on you. You can tell from your own passive insight that his demeanor towards you has changed. Though you are unsure, because he hasn't said anything, you are unsure as to what the horn means or the signal fires mean. But as you kind of move up the path and like cast a glance behind you, you can see that more fires are going off, and you can see little dots on like in the distance in the night where guards are carrying torches, and there's a lot of them, and they're running around doing whatever it is to make sure the perimeter is secure. The portcullis has been locked down. Nothing gets out now. But he leads you inside, and as you maneuver through some of the corridors, you see more of the guards all running in pairs and frantically moving back and forth across the corridors to see if they can take care of something, all doing their own patrols. Occasionally one or two of them will stop and ask the guard escorting you who you are, and he explains what you told him, and that you're and they all collectively say at some point, head to the banquet hall, and he leads you back to the banquet hall, where you see the congregation of nobles who haven't left the party yet, Rickshaw included. He never left the castle grounds, it seems. Are all kind of there. The only people who aren't there are Risha, because she's back at her estate, as you saw, and any of the royals. It seems that Rufus and Marius have been escorted elsewhere, possibly. But after scanning over the crowd, you do see Renji and Ziden and Max.
Okay, so I will go ahead and head towards them, assuming that the guard will just has turned around and left, or
Yeah,
is allowing me a bit more berth than before.
Yeah. After he leads you to the hall, he kind of just gives you a nod and says, "Well, in you go."
Thank you. I'm sorry to disturb you.
He turns around and goes back to his duty station. So around you there's a cacophony of like quiet gossip as to what everything might mean. None of the other nobles appear to be aware of the king's passing or Sophitia's kidnapping. It's just a big commotion. They heard a noise and suddenly the guards asked everybody to remain calm and be in the banquet hall. That's all the other nobles, as from what you can tell by passing conversation, that's all the other nobles seem to know.
Okay. So I head straight towards the party, assuming that they all got together at this point. And well, what happened?
I glance over to the others, people in the room, to make sure that we aren't being overheard. The king was attacked. I don't know. My father said something about trying to find Princess Sophitia. She wasn't with him. That's what I know.
Are you guys okay?
Physically, yeah, I might be in a lot of trouble.
Don't be mad.
This never ends well.
What?
But I don't know if I did something really smart or really dumb. And I pull out the letter. But I can't read the fancy script.
I grab it immediately.
Okay.
And I start reading it if I can.
Yep, you open it up. It is written in plain common.
Mm-hmm.
It is now in the documents subfolder of your journal.
Okay.
And you may read it as you will.
Okay. My dear Risha, I hope this letter finds you well. I would like to assure you that despite the previous turn in weather, this estate still endures. I assure you the home will continue to stand upon Snowhead for years to come. The Goran workers were masters of their craft. Bartholomew continues to assure me that Din will watch over us and guide us, and in truth, the view of the world below, behind the veil of snow, is a wondrous sight. Should you find the time and courage to journey and visit me, I would welcome you in open arms. Along with this letter, I shall be sending more gifts and supplies, as well as a manuscript of actions to take in this time. I am sad to hear of Simeon's passing. I had always thought you fond of him, a folly on my part to be sure, though now I simply find it saddening that you had left everything on unfriendly terms. What? Regardless of what you think of the man, I cannot stress enough that we as a people must be unified in our own betterment. Ironic, considering my station as a Lord of War, I know, but I am not wrong, am I? A series of supplies and notes will need to be passed to Miss Cassandra Summerborn. If she is to be taking charge over Whitestone's work while he takes his leave for the sake of his well-being, we will need to continue correspondence with them on my behalf. Be well and stay safe. From what I understand from your writings, it is becoming progressively more dangerous within the kingdom, and I would hate to see you brought to harm. Write back soon. Your father, Lord Arthur Grastal. What? Why did you steal this?
Well, I misread the situation pretty badly.
Wait, Cassandra Southernborn. I look over the crowd to see if she is there.
Make a perception check.
Perception check. That is a 12. I rolled a 4.
12. Okay, so you kind of have a glance over it. It takes you a while. No one besides you guys seem to have the desire to sit still. But you do occasionally see between people in the crowd. You see you see Cassandra, who's talking to some of her friends that you noticed being there when you first asked her to dance. She seems to have a fairly concerned expression on her face.
And Lady Risha isn't here.
No, she is not.
Okay. Well, I hand the letter back to Hikan. She might soon figure out that is not in her possession anymore.
Yeah. I look over it, kind of just rereading what Renji wrote relatively slowly in comparison. What do you think he means by instructions?
No clue. Things to do in the estate.
Make a Renji, make a general intelligence check. Ordinarily, I just give this to you, but you're kind of frazzled at the moment, so you might not recall it immediately.
21. I rolled a 19.
So you recall, as much as it doesn't come up, that Lady Risha isn't strictly Lord of War. She's kind of a stand-in for her father, because her father thought it was a great idea to go and build a house on top of Snowhead Mountain, and kind of lives there now, and then passes instructions on to Lady Risha, who then fulfills them on his behalf.
Right. I relay that information. So she kind of is, I don't know, figurehead, a go-between. But if you had thought that this was some sort of evidence of a conspiracy, I mean, we could surely use that sort of thing right now, but this isn't it.
No, it isn't.
As you kind of deliberate, a pair of individuals come up. One of them is the familiar face of Larson Graves, and the other one is just a generic guard at the moment. And he looks over you all and says, "Are you all okay?"
As he's coming over, I'm hiding the letter back in my pocket.
Okay. Yeah, I won't need you to make a roll on that one. It's not something he's specifically looking out for. But he kind of looks over all of you with mild concern, though he maintains a professional sort of stance as he does so.
Max has been standing away from the group and just completely still, and from his facial expression, he's not in the room right now.
Also, just so, would Renji know of the significance of the signal that the guards just heard?
Yes.
Everyone heard? Okay. I was in the room in the king's study. I tried to help, but I was there when the assailants
So you
seemed to. Yeah.
saw them then?
Yes.
Can you offer a description?
A redhead, feminine, fae-like. The face was not Hylian or Sheikah. Mage, or something. She used a magic, a spell to age the king. Sent him into. I think he got a heart attack because of it.
As you kind of mentioned the whole process of the spell, you can see that Lawson kind of grimaces slightly and says, "She really wanted him dead then."
Yeah, and she mentioned something, wanting it to last, but I was there, and I think she needed. That's why she acted so quickly before I could do anything. She was already gone.
Right. Well, as it stands, speaking from a professional standpoint, yeah. If that's what killed the king, then there's no bringing him back. There's a bit of a caveat when it comes to resurrection magic. And we can't, as per cosmic rules, we can't bring back someone who dies of old age. That's if the spell, if what you say is true about how that spell had worked, then it just kind of sped up the process. I mean, we'll try, but that doesn't sound terribly hopeful. I'm sorry.
You may want to talk to Nihilus and Selish.
I will, but I need to get information from all of you first. And that just, he kind of like motions a finger to say that when he says all of you, he means everyone in the room.
Yeah.
And he says, so red hair, clearly a spellcaster, pseudo-sadistic. Right. I heard tell there was also an attack in the princess's room. Anyone have any information on that one?
I didn't hear anything about that. My father did go to check that out as he was separated from his charge.
So it's just Larson asking our group then?
Yeah, just all of you in general.
Ziden will nod and say, we were there.
Okay.
Gesturing to himself and Max.
Okay. Can you explain what happened?
There was a strange individual who kidnapped the Princess Sophia and teleported away.
Okay. Any distinguishing facts about this one?
He seemed to have quite a powerful ice magic, and I believe he had scales similar to Max's.
Excuse me? Out of character, no one fucking knows about that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Especially not him.
Whoop.
In which case he has. Did we see the guy's scales?
No, he's wearing
had-
wearing even more
he had
clothes than Max.
Distinguishing features: white hair, scar on face.
Yeah.
White hair, scar on face.
Okay. So he kind of nods. Says, "Okay." And he looks around and says, "So if they're spellcasters, then I guess that explains how both of them escaped without running into any guards."
What was that?
If they're spellcasters, then I guess that's how they escaped. Yes?
Yeah, they teleported away,
Okay.
as far as I can tell.
Hmm. Alright.
Same happened with the one I saw.
Okay. And he turns to Hikan. Says, "What about you? Anything in particular?"
I went out for a walk outside the castle for a little bit. The guards could sit there and do it. I can't remember his name. I came in through the east gate before the horns blew.
I see.
I'm sorry.
That's alright. Any information is good information, and to be honest, all of you have collectively provided me a lot of stuff to go on. I'll be conferring with Nihilus when I've managed to get as much information as I can on this situation, but I can agree that it's not exactly ideal. If you're okay with being a little more patient, all you need to do is remain here until we finish questioning people, and then you'll be able to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Max continues to not move in the background.
Okay. And he,
Well, I was going to say, whilst we're just generally in the hall, can we see any people who don't look as concerned or out of place as you'd kind of expect in this sort of strange situation?
make an insight check.
One insight for 19.
Okay.
Ooh, I could add guidance to this.
Go on then. I'll be
20 total.
20 total. I'll be generous. Okay.
For my extra one.
So
I only just remembered I even had that cantrip.
yeah. So you have a glance around the room, and you kind of take in the conversations that happen. From what you understand, as you kind of look around, you see that there are a bunch of people who seem genuinely confused as to what's occurred. Your eyes focus on the different nobles that go through. You can judge based off of the nobles that you've encountered thus far. Lord Kazundas is currently assisting a lot of the guards, and kind of going around with the chaplains and everything, trying to get as much information as he can in order to assist with the investigation. Maintains a very professional state. It's almost as if he hasn't changed from the dinner, but then again, this is the only instance that you've seen him in, so it's hard to really judge whether or not anything has actively changed in the man. Your eyes move over to Dr. Crane, who seems to be he seems to be telling an endearing story about the royal I say it's telling an endearing story about the royal family. He seems to be rambling as he usually does, but there's an aspect of his body language where he's a lot slower and seems to be a lot more sad. It's hard to tell whether or not he's aware as to what's happened, but he's been around a while, so it's possible that a man of his intellect would probably have pieced together what's happened, and just kind of like very calmly talking to people. He does the old man thing where he takes one person's hand with one hand, then pats the back of it with the other. As your eyes then fall onto Lord Rickshaw, who appears to be... He seems to be waxing poetic, judging by... He's very much pontificating. He's kind of moving his hand up and down, and he has an expression on his face that says that he may be genuinely sad, but if he is, he's really trying to sell it. Like he seems to be overacting, almost. Then you look to Miss Summerborn, and you see that she's currently she's rather intently listening to other people, but then interjecting with her own things. And while there are one or two laughs along the way, it doesn't appear like she's like relieved or happy at the situation. She's just trying to drum up conversation as she can. And as noted, Lady Risha is not present at the moment. The other nobles you haven't met in passing, so you're not exactly sure how to judge them specifically. But as a general idea on the rest of the room, it's mainly a sense of confusion and possibly a bit of sadness and concern.
Alright, Ziden would then point out to Renji, Rickshaw and Summerborn's slightly odd behaviour.
Can't be. Can she?
Sorry, you may
can
need
what?
to repeat that. You kind of cut out a bit.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Cassandra, the color of Cassandra's hair, is that, is the different kind of hue as the Warlock that I saw?
Cassandra's
Or
hair
similar?
Cassandra's hair is brighter and much shorter than the Warlock you encountered.
I mean, like, you can imagine that she's acting out. She's in charge of the guards in the city. Having this happen. Rickshaw I bet he's going to try and leverage this to gain more power within the kingdom.
My thought was that, in theory, you would find at least one member of nobility as somehow backing this.
Yeah. Or it's a complete outside force, which...
Oh yes, there were strange jewellery boxes that were given as gifts that looked quite ominous, and they seemed to be given to both the king and the princess in some way. Seem to be related.
This is bad. So remember that I told you not to say anything about my magic to my father?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he knows now.
Oh.
More importantly, Zelish knows. And the source of my power is kind of exactly the opposite of what the Sheikah generally stand for. And I'm... Ziden, I am... I wanted to keep all of this secret, but this just happening. Everything's coming. If I had known this, I would have told you much, much sooner.
Whilst you might have the same source, it's not exactly like you're the one who set this all up?
I know, but I'm not. No, but I mean, I was nearly cut down by castle guards on Selish's orders.
Hmm. Well, I doubt your father's going to let that actually happen.
No, yeah, he jumped in to save me,
Although
but
he's probably going to have a talk with you himself.
yeah,
Yeah, when I'm not going to save you from that. That's yours to deal with.
I wasn't. Yeah, that wasn't my intention anyway.
Alright,
Um,
so for now. Is there much else we can do whilst we're here?
Unless there are any specific people that you wanted to talk to. Otherwise, you kind of keep amongst yourselves.
Are there drinks?
No.
No drinks?
No
Damn,
drinks.
okay. Well, then I guess I'll just go do this the classic way. Tikan's going to go towards Rickshaw, more to eavesdrop and kind of get a better insight on what he's saying, because he knows Rickshaw doesn't like him.
Okay. Make a perception check.
Perception. Boop. 11.
11. You only get bits and pieces, but from what you can tell, most of the conversation that Rickshaw is trying to generate is kind of falls on multiple different things. He seems to be going on and on about how he has great concern for the members of the royal family and all of Hyrule and the court of Hyrule, and how Simeon was such a wonderful person, which, as you can tell from your own interactions, is a complete crock of shit. He then goes on about how he would love to aid the royal family in this time of need, possibly having a closer relationship with the royal family as to help them, as it is his duty to his kingdom, and all that kind of malarkey. At least that's what you can
Do the people
get.
that he's with buy it, particularly with the oh, I'm so sad about Lord Simeon and all the rest of this big tragedy kind of thing?
Well, they rolled low on their own insight, so they're kind of in a mix of buying it but not buying it. He seems to be Rickshaw seems convincing enough, but it's Rickshaw, so they have like a preemptive distrust of the man.
Okay.
Just to check, has the general people here been actually informed something's happened to the royal family?
They've been told thus far is that there is a situation, and that everyone needs to remain in the banquet hall and remain calm. They haven't told them yet, and if you, based on with your 19 insight from before, you can probably assume that maybe the reason why they haven't told them yet is because they didn't want to have a panic, and then if something worse happens, they'll have less control over the situation to keep everybody safe.
Hey, it was a 20 insight.
Oh yeah, so it was. So that becomes definitely more apparent to you.
Amazing what 1 point can do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, the fact that he's directly stating about how, oh, it's terrible for the royalty and they need help, it's like, but no one's told you that there's something happening with the royals.
No.
Gotten even more suspicious.
To be fair, he was saying stuff like this during the banquet as well, like getting closer to the royal family and the rest of it.
Alright.
I mean, it could still be
do I need to like make him smell again?
Yes.
Right. I'm going to, as stealthily as possible, do that again.
Okay. You don't have a table protecting
Same
your
smell.
hands anymore, so make a sleight of hand check.
Oh, stealth check.
Stealth check works.
That's a 14.
Okay. So you see a couple of people, or like you cast your spell easy enough, no one interrupts you, and the effects of the spell take immediate effect. You see that there's like a group of people who kind of just move away, like the crowd kind of moves away from Rickshaw, and he's kind of standing at an island on his own. And as he tries to move back to another conversation, they move away from him some more. As they kind of avoid the smell, so their approval rating of the man has dropped even further than it has, considering the situation. However, as you kind of glance around, you see a couple of people within the crowd. None of them that you know particularly, just kind of look at you with a sense of like disapproval before turning back to their own conversations.
Well, he is re-scented.
And he can't leave the room now. But unless anybody has anything else specific to do, time passes. It takes a couple of hours before eventually someone appears at the top of the stairs to the entrance to the banquet hall, and kind of calls people to attention. Everyone quiets down and says, "It is with great sorrow that I announce that King Alexander Gregory Hyrule has passed away." And there's a like a collective gasp as it goes through the room.
Can I do another insight to see anyone not surprised?
Sure.
Or perception, I suppose, would be... I don't know.
Insight.
14.
Okay. You kind of have a look around. You cast a cursory glance. You only note that Dr. Crane doesn't appear to be surprised, but he, like, the actual level of sadness in his body language and expression kind of increases as he lowers his head, as if "I knew it" sort of thing happens. The scribe at the top of the stairs says, "It is also with great sadness that I announce that Princess Sophia has gone missing. Of course, as you are aware, as he continues to speak, there's another gasp, and like chatter amongst people begins again. But the man continues, and eventually they do quiet down to listen. He says, "This is the reason why we've asked you to remain calm in this banquet hall. The guards have checked the grounds. There is no further evidence of any attackers. It is a sad night, to say the least. And if you will be kind enough to wait orderly, guards will be on hand to escort you back to your homes within Hyrule Castle Town. Further questions may be asked of you in the future should any further evidence arise, so please do not be surprised if any of the chaplains or the guard come to speak to you in this regard. Until then, all we can do is ask for your cooperation and your kindness in such a trying time. As it is, the king is dead. Long live the king!" And there's a rather dejected response from the crowd. So, "Long live the king!" as they chant. And as the scribe turns and moves away, there is the conversation continues amongst the crowd. You can hear the shock and sadness kind of overtake a couple of people as they as you hear one or two people begin to cry, and there is a general, the tone of the room has definitely shifted to fear and sadness. But eventually, a collection of guards enter the room and begin talking to nobles who then leave with said guards and presumably head home for the night under escort. And as that happens, Larson comes back up with you with another individual. This one being fairly tall, with grey hair, like a long, thin face, almost gaunt looking. He appears to have like a thin, wispy moustache, and his expression seems to be rather condescending. Like even as he looks down at you, his head is tilted back slightly so he can look down his nose at you. And on his formal tunic is emblazoned the symbol of Hylia, and Larson comes to you and says, "Okay. Well, considering the situation, I feel like it's probably best if we escort you back. This is Master Grayscale. He is the chaplain on behalf of Hylia." And he says, "It is a pleasure to meet all of you. Sadly, it is under unfortunate circumstances. Myself and Mr. Graves will be able to escort you back to wherever it is that you make lodge for the night. Though we ask you kindly if you would not leave Hyrule Castle Town, at least not for the next few days until we give the go-ahead. Is that okay?"
Hikan shrugs.
I don't think I'll be leaving the castle anytime soon.
On the contrary, we have received word from Nihilus. He would rather you not be within the castle until we know that it is safe. He can trust your companions in keeping you safe in that regard.
Do I have... can I get some of my stuff first?
Of course. We shall escort you back to your room in order for you to grab your things, and then we'll be making our way out.
Thank you. I glance over at the rest of the group. Just, what is going on?
More shrugs, I think.
I still hasn't moved. And he doesn't move while everyone else starts walking off.
Ziden, maybe you should check in on Max.
Ziden, go over to Max. Hello, Max. Are you okay?
Not me. It's not me.
It's okay. Would you like to step outside?
Still tightly clinging on to what's by his chest, but he mutely, well, not mutely, just muttering the same words under his breath as he follows Ziden.
Hey, Max. What are you holding on to there?
He finally realizes what he's been doing and opens his hand, and he's probably been holding it tightly and long enough that there's blood on his hands from the edges of that silver token that he's been carrying this entire time. Just the shape of it is embedded into his palm. I'm me.
I see. Let's get out of here.
Okay.
Okay. So, the two chaplains escort you through the hallways to get to Renji's room, and they stand and wait as Renji, you collect your things.
I just grab the bag of holding. I grab the sheath of my sword, which is now empty. And that is that. I believe I still had the shield and the rod with me.
Okay.
And like with a dour look on my face, I join the rest to leave the castle.
Okay. Through that, you are then led to one of the guardhouses to that is on the southern side of the castle, where whatever stuff they might have confiscated from you before the party, like your weapons and magic items and stuff like that, they give back to you. And they then escort you down the path where you see legions of royal guards that are usually like within the castle walls, all kind of forming a rudimentary blockade at each of the portcullises. And when the chaplains give the all clear, they move aside. There's a process where the portcullis is unbarred and it is raised only slightly, just enough to let you guys under before it is closed and barred once again. As you wander through the streets of the commercial district, you note that the few residents that live here, that live within the shops that they run, and those who are doing their nighttime errands have all stopped in the streets, and they're all watching, peering in the distance as they see the signal fires behind the walls and of the inner city, and wonder exactly what it is that has happened. They heard the horn, they saw the fires, but not everyone here is aware of what that means, and they're curious as to why there are so many guards around. But they don't stop you. They just continue to watch on, oblivious to the drama, to the tragedy that has just occurred. And the chaplains lead you to the Royal Hylian Inn, and pushing open the door. The barkeep, who had to retain his post, is kind of just like staring out the window, looks over and sees you guys and says, "Oh, can I help you? It's awfully late." And Larson speaks up and says, The Royal Guard will be footing the bill. If you could please accommodate these 4 individuals here for the night. They need a place to stay. And barkeep nods and says, "Of course." And he takes some keys, moves around the bar, and hands each of you a separate key for a room. And says, "As always, breakfast is in the morning. If you need anything, let us know, okay?"
Thank you.
Not a problem. And,
I bow and quickly go to the room.
Okay. So you head to the room. As you guys move away, he turns to the chaplain. The barkeep turns to the chaplain and says, "Master Chaplains, it is not often that this sort of thing happens. This is something I need to definitely know about." And Grayscale, who continues looking down at the barman, says, "No, it is... something has happened, but we cannot say just yet. A crier will be around in the morning to provide the news to the people. In the meantime, please provide your patrons with the rest that they need. It is going to be rather turbulent for a while." And the barman just nods and says, "Oh, okay. All right. Fine. Thank you. And you're also welcome to come in whenever you need to." And the chaplains nod, they turn, and they head out. So, do you guys go to bed immediately?
I don't think I'll be sleeping much.
I don't think I'll be sleeping well.
Ziden will go to bed.
Okay. Hikan?
Hikan will go rest. I was going to be like, maybe I want to return that letter, and then it's like, maybe I want to wait.
Bit of a sore spot right now. Okay. So, you all head to bed. Renji does, as you say, don't go to bed immediately. Takes you a while.
Mhm.
Both as a relief and as I suppose, as an unfortunate sense of caution. It appears that the I'm going to change the map as well because you're no longer technically in the castle. You've been in Castle Town this entire time. It's both a relief and a bit concerning that the Harvester hasn't said anything since.
I actually want to try and communicate with it.
Okay. So you kind of say, I guess you try and focus a bit and...
If this is completely off base, then sure. But I'm thinking in the book of Twilight Lore, there might be something about like contacting. That's how I got into the pack.
Okay. So
I try and just open a channel.
Make a charisma check.
A charisma check.
Yes.
That's a 15.
Okay. So you read through the book to remind yourself of the process of contacting this thing, and after a brief moment, an unpleasant chill overcomes you. And after blinking your eyes a few times, you see that the rest of the room has this kind of amber glow to it, and you see the pixels of dark energy rising in the air. And the voice comes back in and says, "You wanted something from me?"
Answers. You've been entirely too quiet on this.
I'm merely enjoying the spectacle.
Enjoying the spectacle?
In a sense, though I am slightly disappointed. Not in you, no. In your colleague, associate.
I wouldn't consider either of those properly. Tell me,
Yes.
were you ever going to say that there were others like me?
Well, that would spoil the surprise, Renji.
Well, consider me surprised. That's over now. Was this on your order?
Oh, no. That one is actually, problematic. Well, I say problematic. Not as problematic for me as it is for her other patron.
What?
Yes, she is a conundrum.
Can you tell me more about her?
Oh, only this. From what I understand, she was originally betrothed to one of the great fairies, a mischievous little scamp that one was. But she felt that in order for her to gain power, she would need to split the ownership of her soul between this first great fairy and something else. That's when she came to my door.
Do you have a name?
Oh, I don't think I can provide that.
Oh, you can.
Well, perhaps I can, but do you not forget, you are in no position to make demands of me.
Fine then. What do you think is equivalent?
Ooh. Spoiled for choice. Tell you what. If you can slay a great beast with that weapon of yours, something from beyond this world or beyond legend, a dragon, as an example, then maybe I can tell you more about her, name included. Or perhaps I can tell you of a way out of this contract of yours, if that appeals to you.
You mean no more this?
Find me a great beast, and I will tell you how to sever our connection. I cannot guarantee that method that I provide will be easy, but it will be a solution. More so than whatever book or expert you will find.
Can you tell me at least where it is you come from? Because you've heard the master, the Grandmaster, the Sheikah. He was enraged the moment I spoke your language. And I have heard tales, but I never truly considered them.
Oh, irony. I do love irony. As much as the Sheikah value their truths, they are quite avid of censoring things, are they not? Oh. Your master was right to be enraged. He was right to be scared. The Twily, as we are known now, were once of your kind. We were once Sheikah, but we saw the truth. We saw the fallacy in our existence and sought to claim it back. Perhaps, if you were to be such a good boy in your quest for a great beast to end this contract, perhaps sometime I shall tell you more of this story.
Thank you for that. Now, if you don't mind, I think I'll try and get some rest.
I wish you luck in that, dear Renji. And at that, the realm dissipates, and you return back to the prime material plane. And
The moment he called me Dear Renji, my the hair on my arms and my neck just stands up.
I want you to do a perception check for me, actually.
Okay. That is a 21.
Okay. So while you were listening to it, and even in like at the edges of your hearing,
Mhm.
while you were talking to him, there were several sounds that weren't there the previous times that you were talking to him. It sounded like the squeaking of bats, and the growling and whining of some form of canine, and the moans
Okay.
and groans of something possibly humanoid. All just kind of echoing in this dark, dank place that you cannot see. Just sort of, just in the background. That you, as you kind of think back on it, you recognize those sounds. At least what sounds they are. Not sure exactly what it means, but you heard them.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay. So in that realm, there are these creatures.
Maybe. But as your senses return to the prime material plane, I guess you try and get some sleep.
I start writing down everything that the harvester said,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can, once my father would come over or anything, I could have at least something to hand over.
Okay. Yeah, so you write that down and you attempt to get some sleep. It is not a restful sleep. It is, you wake up every so often thinking you heard something, thinking you saw something, but eventually you do manage to drift off. Max, make a wisdom save for me, please.
Oh boy. 17.
Okay. As you lie down, the thoughts of what had just transpired going through your head, it's hard to shake the implications of it. This individual, whoever they might be, whatever name they might claim to have, they stood before you as almost living embodiment of what you've always feared. That this you was doing something evil. And as you kind of wrestle with that, eventually you just lose too much energy to maintain being awake and thinking about it. And you begin to slowly drift off to sleep. As you do, you see flashes of a lot of things. You see flashes of your room. The room that you've sadly come to know so well, that you haven't seen in a long time. You hear the shouts. You see the door burst open. See a stranger look around. They don't see you. And then they disappear, but they leave the door open. And as you move to get up to move through that door, it suddenly slams shut. And you hear this guttural, heavy imposing growl behind you. It just reverberates through you like you're standing in front of a speaker at a concert. It's just loud, bassy noise that shakes your very being as you turn around to see a gargantuan reptilian snout with rows of razor-sharp teeth. You wake up, and you see the sunlight coming in through the window.
And everyone else hears a very loud boom.
And the rest of you are woken up by that very loud boom. Or if, since you're Sheikah, you may have...
Max casts lightning bolt at the fucking ceiling.
There is a brief moment as the stench of ionized air fills your nostrils, and soon you are hit with splinters of burnt wood that rain down upon you. But at least you have a very nice view of the blue sky above you as that lightning bolt tore through the ceiling and the roof, and just oof.
I'm sorry about the 40 lightning damage building.
I think Renji is going to just rush in.
Out of curiosity, what's the DC to break down a door?
Fucking, I'm not sure.
A door can't dodge. That's all you need to know.
A door. Make either a strength check or an unarmed attack as a monk, and I will determine whether or not the door just caves in.
27.
Yeah, the door just caves in. You just kind of bam, like it knocks off its top hinge and it just hangs loosely on its bottom one. Max, you shortly after waking up and kind of almost getting your bearings as to where you are, suddenly you see the door just explode off the hinges, and then Hikan is standing there, just
totally ready to go, combat stance and everything. Is like, huh? Where are they?
Max is still shaking with the adrenaline. Just looks up and says, "What are you doing?" Oh.
I heard a boom. And I heard the boom a couple times before. Are you okay?
It's another nightmare.
Renji materializes from Misty Step into the room. What? Holding the rapier. What's happening? What?
Nightmare.
Are you okay, Max?
No, but yes. Peels himself up off the floor because he doesn't sleep on the bed, and picks up his staff and should fix this, I guess.
Yeah.
Would Max need a boost to help fix the ceiling?
Might need one for the roof.
Yeah.
As you kind of work that one out, you hear from downstairs, "Is everything okay?"
Yeah, it's all right. Just a bad dream.
I heard a loud explosion. Are you sure everything's all right?
Doesn't seem to be any damage.
Make a deception check.
I'm good at those. That's a 24.
Okay, so there's a pause. Okay, well, your breakfast is ready downstairs if you can, maybe.
Thank you. That's quite very kind of you. We'll be down there shortly.
Okay.
Right, can you fix this quickly?
Spell takes not very long. I'll be done in a minute or so.
I go ahead and get down on one knee so
Thanks.
Max can use me as a stool.
Yeah. Reach up and try and poke the broken bit of roof to fix it.
Okay. With due application of mending and about half an hour's worth of work, the two of you managed to fix the ceiling as if nothing had ever happened. Though there are still splinters of charred wood on the floor from before.
I can hide those somewhere.
Prestidigitation.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Clean.
You prestidigitate them away.
He does miss the ones that landed in his head, though.
So I'll prestidigitate that.
Okay. So reasonably clean. You all head downstairs, and eventually you find that surprisingly the actual place is empty, other than the barkeep, who kind of just looks at all of you in a rather concerned expression on his face, and he kind of just sits and waits for a bit, and he says, well, are you all ready to eat, or do you want me to leave you for a bit longer?
I could go for something small.
Just a normal breakfast, that's fine.
Right. And for you there, Ziden, or whoever you are. Does Ziden want breakfast?
I would like a full meal.
Okay. So he disappears after a while. Brings you some breakfast. It's the standard Royal Hylian in breakfast stuff, which is essentially it was it's breads, cheeses, roast meats, maybe a few vegetables, the general assortment of things. And you kind of have like a few hours of quiet, or an hour or so of quiet. They just kind of pass on by, unless you guys have anything specific you want to talk about while you eat.
Out of curiosity, can anybody make somebody look like anybody else here?
I do not possess that kind of ability, no. I can make you look invisible.
Max picks up the staff and just like, I can make decisions.
Invisible sounds really good right now, because I want to return the thing I took.
Right. It isn't like permanent. It takes a moment. Hold on.
Everybody's returning to him today.
Yeah. So it's not permanent invisibility. Like if you start behaving like aggressively, it tends to drop, and I can only keep it up for like an hour or so. Is that going to be enough?
If you want a bit of extra help, I also have magics that will make you more stealthy.
I was just going to drop it at the guards that would be in front of the place, because I'm sure that they would take it to her. That way I don't have to risk sneaking back in and putting it back and sneaking back out.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to do at some point. But it can wait.
Oh, that might be a good idea. I mean, I can use another spell before I actually need to take a rest again.
Okay.
You waking up startled me rather much, Max. Do you want to talk about what happened in the nightmare?
I didn't escape, and there was a dragon. It was big. Bigger than anything I'd ever seen. It's similar to most of my other dreams, really.
As you kind of discuss that, the door to the inn creaks open, and in the silhouetted by the rising sun, you see a familiar silhouette. Two of them actually. One of them is Nihilus. He has a backpack on. He's dressed in full battle gear, and he kind of looks around the room as he holds the door open, and he nods to the barkeep, who kind of nods back, says, "Well, I'm going to be going out for a bit. Don't make a mess of the place." And he wanders out through the back entrance, leaving you alone with Nihilus and this other person, who, after the barkeep moves away, Nihilus moves further into the building and holds the door open for the diminutive form of Mara, who has like a kind of coat on sort of thing, like a short coat, double-breasted, with some rugged-looking walking boots. She has her own kind of satchel pack, and under one of her arms is a big thick book. And she looks around the room and kind of looks nervously at all of you, peering from behind her glasses. And as she enters, Nihilus closes the door behind him, and he walks slowly and authoritatively over to your table. And he says, "Good morning."
Good morning. I have something in my room. I'll get that ready for you. It'll only take a few seconds, and I rush to the room to get my notes on previous evening's chats.
As you disappear, the rest of the party watches as Nihilus watches you go up the stairs, and as you disappear around a corner, his shoulders slump and he heaves like an exasperated sigh. And he looks over.
What's wrong?
I just have great concern for him, especially considering what I found out.
After a while, I return, put the note down, and I say, as far as I know, though the source isn't trustworthy, I understand this. Doesn't seem like they had anything to do with the attack. Just that the person who did that was empowered by the same source as where I find my magic, as well as a great fairy.
He kind of takes a note, reads it over, then quickly folds it, puts it in a pocket, gives a nod, says, "Thank you. Please take a seat."
I sit down and I grab out of my bag of holding the book on Twilight Lore.
He kind of like his eyes narrow as he sees you pull out that book.
The security in the library is lacking.
I glance at Mara.
Mara's just kind of like looks disappointed, nervous, and generally sad.
No.
And just kind
I
of
show Mara Fred.
Oh.
turns to curiosity. She sees you pull out the moth from your hood. Nihilus kind of, after a pause, picks up and says, well, as much as I would like to have a long, drawn-out conversation with you, Renji, we do not have the time. I'm merely here to give you new tasks.
I heard from the guards that you'd rather not me be.
I didn't want you in the castle because it was not safe at the time. I didn't kick you out. Though, let me be clear, Renji, that I am thoroughly disappointed in you. But, as said, time is of the essence. And at this point in time, you are a valuable asset to our further investigations. So, as you are all fully aware, the king is dead. Sophitia has been kidnapped. At this point in time, as it has been explained and demonstrated, the king is not coming back. Next in line to the throne is Marius. But as Sophitia is my charge, it is my solemn quest to go and find her. Our capabilities are spread thin. Zelish needs to return with the body of the king to Kakariko village for it to be interned in the royal grave. And after that, I am not sure what he plans. But he is not stable at this point. I think it best that you keep your distance from him and allow him to heal in his own time. In the meantime, though, we have done some investigations in regards to recent events. No doubt the death of a noble, the king, and the kidnapping of a princess, as well as other aspects that you have been so kind as to provide us information on, have been remarkably suspicious, especially considering the fact that they have all happened within a short period of time. As such, you are all being conscripted into a royal task force as part of an effort to figure out what exactly has happened and how we might be able to stop it. Yes, Renji?
What does conscripted mean?
You might need to repeat that. You glitched out a bit.
Oh. I said, I wonder on whose authority, or on what authority we are being conscripted into this force. Not to be like an asshole, though it sounds like I'm an asshole at this point, but because the king is dead and there is no clear like hierarchy of power.
You're under orders of me.
Very well.
What does conscripted mean?
It means that we are forced into, well, basically the Hyrulean army.
Oh.
Almost.
Hmm.
In essence, due to your work with Simeon, as well as it being quite clear that none of you have the lack of morality in you for you to do such a thing, we have come to the conclusion that none of you are to be considered a problem.
How did you get that across with Zelish?
I explained to him that regardless of anything, he must realize that because you share a connection with a, in his terms, a traitor spirit, the same traitor spirit, as you have explained in this note, is connected to the assassin of the king. There might be some use in that. Perhaps in some way you can keep tabs on this assassin, or perhaps track them. You're also quite possibly the only person in the kingdom who has this kind of connection with this power. But you are not corrupted by it. At least I hope you are not corrupted by it.
As far as I can tell, not.
Okay. So, because of that, you have a unique use. And the rest of your companions seem to trust you to a significant degree, and are also individuals of good character.
Max looks away at that.
So I'm going to share with you some information, and then you and your liaison will be able to continue this quest on an investigative level. You'll be able to find things that would be harder for us to go and find as myself or Zelish or a troop of guards, as it were. The chaplains need to stay here for the safety of the city, and Impa and Alea are busy keeping alive their royal charges. Am I making myself clear? He says to all of you.
And this liaison is Mara, I am assuming?
Mara kind of gives a wave, says, "Hi, yeah, that's me." Mara volunteered.
Why?
Right.
We were looking for someone who was an academic, and none of the academics in the castle wished to partake in this venture. And Mara, despite not being a full-fledged scholar and more a keeper of the librarian, is very well learned in all manner of things, specifically in regards to alchemy, necromancy. She's quite talented.
Okay. I don't know about either of those things.
So, here is what we know so far. The assassin who was responsible for the killing of the king is a tall, lithe woman with fey-like features. From what I understand of this note that you have just provided me, Renji, she is also powered by two separate entities, both of which have dubious morality about them, considering what she is capable of. The other, the kidnapper, is, and he kind of like his eyes fall on Max a little bit as he chooses his words carefully before he eventually says, a tall individual with white gel-back hair appears to be wearing furs of some kind in a jacket, scar on the face, capable of ice magic. In this instance, the king is not able to be brought back due to a cosmic loophole, I suppose. The boxes that we have found in the rooms have been noted as magical items capable of storing an individual for later deployment. They were coated in some kind of aura that allowed them to sneak by as if they were mundane items among the other gifts that many individuals have provided. We have someone currently looking through the large list of donators who might be responsible for providing those boxes. There were 2 more boxes, one for each royal. The one that was meant for Rufus contained insectoid-like creatures, which had 3 legs, a single eye. There were about 3 of them. Ziden, what's your passive nature, out of curiosity?
13.
13. You know these sound something like a parasitic life form called a goma. Basically, they are to nature as zombies are to people. They are a parasite and a disease that are not, like, they stand as an anathema to the natural world.
Ziden would, I guess, realizing that, sort of shiver and scowl unhappily. Kind of mutter Goma.
And the box meant for Marius contained, well, apparently it was meant to contain a single individual, an assassin armed with daggers, but unfortunately, it seems like, well, unfortunately for him, it seems like his transit didn't last very long. He was dead when he was brought out of his box. Died of suffocation, apparently.
Oh,
He was carrying this, and he swiftly draws a knife from his belt and throws it to the center of the table, where it does the as it kind of hits the wood. Looking at it, it appears to have the same design as the little northern star symbols that you found on Raymond.
That's a
familiar.
familiar symbol.
Yeah.
We didn't think it was wise to bring him back. He made his bed, he lies in it now.
There's no attempt made to commune.
One of the chaplains did suggest utilizing Speak with Dead. Unfortunately, the disposition towards us is something that we cannot control. The spirit did not answer any of our questions. It was very much an anti-royal individual. However, from what I understand, based on that symbol, you have also found information in regards to it. Could I have a refresher as to what you found in that?
It's a guy making demon horses.
May have something to do with psycho support.
Okay. Then, I suggest you start there. I will be taking Sho and a small platoon with me to see if we can find the princess. I want you to investigate any information that you find in regards to this symbol, and any information you find on either of the individuals responsible for this attack. Mara will be accompanying you as a liaison of the royal family, as well as a scholar who might be able to provide you with additional information should you need it. However, be advised, she is not combat trained, so do not expect her to draw a blade and join you should you find yourselves in trouble. Are we clear?
Crystal.
Okay. And with that, I leave you to it. I need to begin my own journey to see if I can find Princess Sophitia before anything were to befall her. I wish you luck. And remember, when you found the information you need, come back to the castle, provide it to the scribe, and we will work from there on.
Okay.
And do not forget, Renji, we have things to talk about when this all settles down.
Yes, Father.
He gives a nod, he turns, and he begins walking out, stops, gives a nod to Mara, who gives kind of like a nervous nod back, and then he opens the door to the inn and closes it behind him, leaving you and Mara in the inn. She kind of hugs her book to her chest and says, when do we start? And
What even is Sarkoza?
Oh, Sarkoza is a port town to the north. It's a center of trade, especially from other kingdoms and nations and stuff.
Okay. So it's kind of like this place, but not as big.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Do I know if Sarkozy Port holds like a larger contingency of Zora?
You know that Sarkoza Port is more of a it's kind of like a melting pot of culture. Come to think of it, it's got a variety of races there. Next to no Gorons though, but that's because Gorons can't swim. It's primarily there to effectively function as Mara explained. It's there to function as a way for the kingdom and other members of the other areas of the kingdom to get stuff from international places, because most of Hyrule Kingdom is largely landlocked. There are plenty of Zora there, as they are wont to be, but it is, yeah, it's pretty much an everything goes town. And as Mara mentions that, she actually slowly approaches the table and takes a scroll from a tube that is on her belt, places it on the table, and then unfurls it, and she presents you with a map of the kingdom at large.
Oh god. So many things.
See things. Next, like, looks at the places he has cured up, like Gardermark and the Lala Ranch, and then looks at where Sarkosa Port Town is and goes, "That's a long way."
Yeah, it's a couple of days on foot, maybe like 2 days by horse.
We have horses.
We do.
Okay.
You have a horse?
I think I can requisition one, yeah.
Okay.
You can ride with horse.
I guess
What?
I can.
Hikan, it'd be easier if we each have a horse to give them less of a load.
Well, yeah, but crap, I forgot how fast horses move.
60.
Yeah.
Normally 80 feet per round, I think, as far as I have
I
it.
have horses in my list, I can check somewhere. Let's see, riding horse,
60 feet.
60.
Oh, sorry.
But at that, she kind of gives a nod and says, "Well, I suppose it starts," and we will end the session there for today. Thank you everyone so much for watching and listening and all this other stuff. My name is ArticulateT, the Game Master, and with me today I have had Renji, Heir of Nihilus, being played by TheNetherlad.
It's not so much privilege of being a noble, it's the privilege of being a player character.
Yeah. I've had Alvarance playing Hikan Sio.
Great, now I have to like sneak away from Mara to return the damn letter.
I'm well distracted.
Playing Ziden Shari, I've had RoboPirate.
So we gained a scholar.
Yes, you have. And playing, I had Keastreth playing Max.
I'm so sorry I killed you, Roof.
It's okay, Roof got better.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.